This year, as the culture turns 50, the world stops to celebrate hip-hop. We celebrate the DJs, the MCs, the B-boys, and the graffiti artists. But a question lingers: how did this raw, vibrant street sound jump from basement parties in the Bronx to a billion-dollar global phenomenon? The answer starts with a stunning black businesswoman who saw the future when everyone else saw a fad. Her name was Sylvia Robinson, a music veteran who had already tasted fame in the 50s and 70s. But it was in 1979, standing in a small Harlem club, that she heard the sound that would change her life and ours. She took a risk, a monumental gamble on what was considered noise, and, with her husband Joe, she established Sugar Hill Records. It was a label named for an affluent black neighborhood, built to house the most revolutionary sound of the century. The product of that vision? A 15-minute, infectious track called Rapper's Delight, the song that officially introduced the world to rap. Sylvia Robinson is widely known today as the undeniable mother of hip-hop. But her story is not just one of triumph, it's a complex, painful American saga of creation, exploitation, and the heavy price of being first. Was she a genius pioneer, or a ruthless executive? Perhaps she was both. And that duality is why her story, a story of music, power, and betrayal, still haunts the culture she birthed. The story of Sylvia Robinson begins far away from the flashing lights of a new cultural movement, rooted instead in the enduring rhythm of rhythm and blues. She was born Sylvia Vanderpool on May 29, 1935, in Harlem, New York. Harlem was the heart of black artistry and ambition, but Sylvia's background had another layer. Her parents were immigrants from the Virgin Islands, and her father worked for General Motors. This combination, the hustle of the Harlem streets mixed with the disciplined work ethic of an immigrant family, would define her entrepreneurial drive for decades. Sylvia showed her musical promise early. By the age of 13, she had already landed a record deal with Columbia Records, adopting the stage name Little Sylvia. In 1951, she released her first single, Little Boy, which featured the legendary trumpeter Hot Lips Page on background sounds. This wasn't a teenage whim, this was a serious entry into the music industry during the burgeoning rock and roll era. As she attended high school, her parents encouraged her to take guitar lessons. This proved to be a pivotal decision. Not only did she learn the instrument, but she also began writing her own songs. It was through these lessons that she met the masterful guitarist Mickey Baker. Their collaboration quickly moved past the classroom, forming the duo Mickey and Sylvia. In 1956, they released a song that would become an absolute rock and roll classic, Love is Strange. This single soared, hitting #1 on Billboard magazine's most played R&B singles chart and reaching number 11 on the Hot 100. Love is Strange was a massive success, selling over 1 million copies, and in 2004, it was rightfully inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame for its immense influence as a rock and roll single. The song's iconic sound cemented Sylvia's status as a formidable artist and songwriter long before hip-hop existed, and many today still recall hearing it in classic American films like Dirty Dancing and Casino. Despite their success, Mickey and Sylvia parted ways in 1959 after Sylvia decided to pursue a solo career. Frustrated by the music business, she nearly quit, planning to go back to school for nursing. Her path took a dramatic turn when she met Joe Robinson on a cruise ship up the Hudson River. Joe Robinson was a different kind of partner, a Navy veteran, a hustler, and a number runner from the streets. He was rooted in the grit of business, owning apartment buildings, clubs, and bars, and dealing in real estate. They married, and Joe convinced Sylvia to abandon nursing and return to music, seeing the greater earning potential in her talent. Joe became her manager and, critically, helped convince her to reunite with Mickey Baker to form their own music publishing company. This marked the crucial transition for Sylvia Robinson from an artist simply performing songs to an entrepreneur controlling the creative and financial means of production. In 1961, Mickey and Sylvia produced It's Gonna Work Out Fine for Ike and Tina Turner. Sylvia paid for the session, taught Tina the song, and even played the guitar on the track. It's Gonna Work Out Fine became the Turners' first Grammy-nominated song and their second million-selling single. Yet, in a stark illustration of the music industry's deep sexism at the time, Sylvia received no credit as a producer. Had she been properly credited, she would have been recognized as America's pop music first female record producer. This experience fueled her drive not just to succeed, but to own and control the business. After Mickey and Sylvia split again around 1962, Joe and Sylvia moved to Inglewood, New Jersey, to raise their family. By 1968, they established their first major joint venture, All Platinum Records, consolidating years of experience running smaller labels like Red Robin, Fury, Fire, and Vibration. All Platinum Records quickly found success, notably with the R&B group The Moments. Sylvia wrote their first hit, Love on the Two-Way Street, which spent 5 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Soul Singles Chart and peaked at number 3 on the Hot 100. She also wrote Shame 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 for Shirley and Company, a hit on both the soul and disco charts. In 1973, Sylvia decided to step back into the spotlight as a solo artist. She wrote the song Pillow Talk, which was originally intended for Al Green, but he turned it down due to his religious background. Sylvia recorded it herself, and it was a massive success. Released in March 1973, Pillow Talk hit number 1 on the best-selling soul singles chart for 2 weeks and peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It also earned her a Grammy nomination for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance in 1974. The song was a true precursor to the later rise of highly sexualized R&B and pop, using explicit sexual moaning and content that predated Donna Summer's infamous, Love to Love You Baby. With Pillow Talk, Joe and Sylvia Robinson were riding high, with money pouring in. They leveraged their success to make a bold move, even purchasing the legendary Chess Records catalog, a collection of masters from giants like Etta James, Muddy Waters, and Chuck Berry. This acquisition proved their ambition. They were now major players, powerful black executives managing the historical foundation of American soul and blues music. They were truly a force to be reckoned with, pioneers in a male-dominated business and a shining example of a successful black businesswoman. But this success was brittle, built on shaky foundations. The disco era was running the world, and All Platinum Records struggled to produce another major hit. Soon, the company began to lose money. Joe Robinson became entangled in investigations for payola and tax evasion, ultimately leading the company to file for bankruptcy. Furthermore, All Platinum artists started accusing the Robinsons of not paying their royalties. The stage was set for the next chapter, desperation, risk, and the most revolutionary creation in music history. The pressure on Joe and Sylvia Robinson was immense. Their once thriving all-platinum records was bankrupt due to investigations into payola and tax evasion. They needed money, and they needed it fast, a desperate situation that led them into a perilous alliance. Joe Robinson, using his underworld connections, talked to his friend Jules Rifkin, who in turn connected him to the mafia music boss, Morris Levy. Levy, known for stealing royalties from black artists at his Roulette Records, saw the Robinsons' financial distress as an investment opportunity and demanded to be a partner in their next venture. Sylvia was terrified, calling Levy the devil, but Joe proceeded, even dealing with another mobster, Tony Rivera, for additional funding. Sylvia, depressed and seeking refuge in faith, was praying for a miracle to escape their financial troubles and the clutches of Morris Levy. The miracle arrived not in a church, but in a dimly lit nightclub, and it sounded like the future. In 1979, Sylvia attended a birthday party for her niece at the world-famous Harlem World nightclub. She was shocked. Disco had been the top musical choice for years, but here, the energy was different. She saw DJs and MCs commanding the crowd on the microphone. She watched the legendary DJ Love Bug Starsky and DJ Hollywood chanting and rapping over the breakdown section of Chic's massive summer hit, Good Times. The crowd's reaction was explosive. They were chanting along, following every command, put your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care. Sylvia Robinson, the veteran artist and producer, didn't just see a party, she saw a product. She instantly conceptualized the idea, take an already successful instrumental and have kids rap over it. It was a move of pure commercial genius, capturing street culture and packaging it for mass consumption. The Sugar Hill Gang and Rapper's Delight. Her initial attempts to recruit established rappers like Love Bug Starsky and a young artist named Casper failed, as they were warned to stay away from the Robinsons due to their bad reputation in the industry. Undeterred, her son Joey Jr. and his friend Warren Moore introduced her to Big Bank Hank, who was working at a pizza restaurant. Hank, who was rapping rhymes borrowed from his friend Grandmaster Cass, a choice that would haunt the group later, was hired on the spot. Soon after, Master G and Wonder Mike joined the lineup. Sylvia brought the trio to her studio, gave them contracts, and formed the group, the Sugar Hill Gang. She named her new venture Sugar Hill Records, a nostalgic nod to the historic, wealthy black neighborhood in Harlem. She then had her house band expertly remake the instrumental track of Chic's Good Times down to the T, making it virtually indistinguishable from the original. The result was the single, Rapper's Delight. Originally 19 minutes, Sylvia edited it down to a 15-minute, infectious track. Even Joe Robinson was hesitant, questioning the length and the viability of this hip-hop thing. But Sylvia, with the foresight of a true pioneer, was certain, it's going to work. On September 16, 1979, Rapper's Delight was released on Sugar Hill Records. It was an immediate phenomenon. The single hit number 36 on the US Billboard Hot 100, but it was massive internationally, reaching number 1 in Canada and the Netherlands. In a genre the industry deemed a fad, Rapper's Delight sold over 8 million copies worldwide. It was the first time most of the world had ever heard rapping on a record, confirming Sylvia's vision and cementing her status as the mother of hip-hop. The success of Rapper's Delight validated Sylvia's risk, and she immediately began building a roster of hip-hop artists for Sugar Hill Records. She signed The Sequence, a 3-member female group from South Carolina that included future soul singer Angie Stone. Their 1979 single, Funk You Up, was the first rap record released by a female group and the second single released by the label. She then aggressively scooped up artists from smaller rivals like Enjoy Records, founded by Bobby Robinson. She signed the real, street rappers, including the Legends, Grandmaster Flash, and the Furious Five. Under Sugar Hill Records, they released timeless classics like Freedom, New York, New York, and the monumental, The Message. The latter was so impactful it sold 1 million copies in a month. Later, they released White Lines, considered the first anti-drug song, the video for which was directed by then NYU film student Spike Lee and featured Lawrence Fishburne. The label also signed Funky 4+1, The Crash Crew, and Treacherous 3. Sylvia even released her own rap track, It's Good to Be Queen. Sugar Hill Records dominated the early 1980s hip-hop scene, rivaling Motown's influence in the 1960s. Sylvia, a tireless black businesswoman, had single-handedly transitioned hip-hop from a localized, niche street art form into a viable, million-dollar commercial enterprise. She and Joe Robinson were the undeniable pioneers, but the immense wealth they created would soon become the central source of their downfall. The unprecedented success of Sugar Hill Records and the global hit Rapper's Delight brought not stability, but a cascade of complex tragedy. The very enterprise that launched a billion-dollar culture was built on financial instability, aggressive hustle, and dubious partnerships, all of which came crashing down on Sylvia Robinson and her family. Despite making millions and dominating the airwaves, the Robinsons were soon caught in a cycle of litigation from the very artists they made famous. The artists, witnessing the massive wealth being generated, realized they were not being fairly compensated for the cultural revolution they spearheaded. Grandmaster Flash, The Moments, The Sequence, and others began to leave the label and sue Sugar Hill Records for millions in unpaid royalties and publishing rights. Grandmaster Flash, for instance, learned about publishing and royalties from Rick James and quickly began asking questions that led to him being pushed out of the group and filing a $5 million lawsuit against Sugar Hill. In a damning moment illustrating the deep rift between the pioneers and the emerging talent, Betty Shabazz, the wife of Malcolm X, publicly confronted Sylvia Robinson in court after Sugar Hill released an album of Malcolm X's speeches without paying her. Betty Shabazz reportedly shouted loudly at Sylvia, "Get out of my face, you a pirate and a liar." Sylvia, often called a ruthless black businesswoman, was visibly shaken, slumping down in her chair. The label's reputation quickly soured. Artists accused Sylvia and Joe of stealing publishing rights, often putting the credits and ownership in their children's names. The judge overseeing the cases reportedly referred to Joe Robinson and his lawyers as gangsters. The Robinsons' financial troubles were compounded by their desperate connections to organized crime. Joe Robinson's link to mafia music boss Morris Levy made the label toxic. When they needed major distribution in the mid-80s to rebuild, no reputable company wanted to work with them due to Joe's association with Levy. Levy connected Joe to Sal Pacello, a mob affiliate who brought in MCA Records to distribute Sugar Hill's music. However, the hits stopped coming. They couldn't produce another major success despite signing new talent like Felipe Wynne of the Spinners. They also made critical mistakes, infamously turning down the demo tape of a young rapper named LL Cool J. reported 9 times. The rappers they once dismissed were now becoming massive stars on rival labels like Def Jam and Profile, further marginalizing Sugar Hill Records. Drowning in debt, particularly to MCA Records, the Robinsons were forced to make a devastating concession. They had to give up the entire Historical Chess Records catalog to MCA. This catalog, which included the masters of Etta James, Muddy Waters, and Chuck Berry, was a piece of American music history worth billions today. Losing it was the symbolic end of their initial empire. Joe Robinson later sued MCA, blaming Pacello for sabotaging the label and conspiring to steal their catalog, though he strategically omitted Morris Levy's name from the lawsuit. The intense legal battles, coupled with their financial losses, destroyed the Robinsons' personal relationship. Sylvia Robinson divorced Joe in 1989 to dissolve their business partnership, later stating that working with her husband made him think she was working for him. She partially blamed Joe for the artist's lack of payment, stating she was the one who was truly jerked, never receiving a single cent in royalties herself. She did start one last venture, signing a New Jersey rap group called The New Style, who would later achieve major success after leaving the label and rebranding as Naughty by Nature. The final years of Sugar Hill Records were marked by loss and tragedy. In 1995, Sylvia managed to sell the Sugar Hill Records catalog for 7 figures to Rhino Records, importantly retaining the publishing rights, a move that ensured long-term income from the songs. In 2000, Joe Robinson died from cancer. His ashes were kept in an urn at the Sugar Hill Records studio. In October 2002, the studio in New Jersey caught fire. The blaze, caused by a short circuit in a keyboard left on overnight, was devastating. The fire destroyed 90% of the studio's master tapes, including original recordings from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, the Sugar Hill Gang, and The Moments. A monumental piece of hip-hop history was literally reduced to ashes. The only thing saved from the destruction was Joe Robinson's urn. Sylvia Robinson herself passed away on September 29, 2011, from congestive heart failure at the age of 75. The woman who gave the world hip-hop left behind a legacy defined by both the gift of rappers' delight and the ghosts of the artists who claimed they were robbed. This complex narrative of a pioneering black businesswoman, capable of immense creativity but bound by the harsh realities of a cutthroat industry, provides a painful lesson for all who seek success in American music. The life and death of Sylvia Robinson, and the ensuing decades of legal battles, force us to confront the complex, often painful truth of the American music business and the pioneers it consumes. The central conflict of her legacy is simple. Sylvia was an essential black businesswoman who provided the global on-ramp for hip-hop, yet she became notorious for the same predatory practices she herself had endured. The artists who created the legendary tracks on Sugar Hill Records, including Grandmaster Flash, The Moments, and Funky 4+1, spent 40 years fighting the label for their royalties. The final settlements in 2022, long after Sylvia's death, highlighted a painful betrayal within the black community, where older generations, facing immense pressure from a racist, male-dominated industry, allegedly exploited the young talent beneath them. Sylvia often claimed she was the victim, asserting she was jerked and never received a cent in royalties herself, framing the issue as Joe Robinson's downfall, hastened by his dangerous dealings with mob figures like Morris Levy. Yet, the legal documents and the public accusations from figures like Betty Shabazz, calling her a pirate and a liar, created an undeniable stain on the Sugar Hill Records name. This complexity is precisely what makes her a distinctly American figure. She operated as an uncompromising entrepreneur, a survivalist in a cutthroat field, determined to break the rules that kept black creators poor. Her life was the embodiment of the high stakes, creating rappers' delight and changing the world, only to have the literal master recordings of that revolution destroyed in a studio fire. Despite the controversy, the culture recognizes her essential role. The television show Empire based the character of Cookie Lyon on Sylvia Robinson, reflecting the public's fascination with her fierce, unapologetic power. And posthumously, in 2022, Sylvia Robinson was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an honor that recognizes her monumental impact as a true original, the mother of hip-hop who heard a sound in a club and, through sheer force of will, turned it into music history. The story of Sylvia Robinson is a challenging symphony of ambition and complication, played out against the backdrop of American dreams and broken contracts. She passed away on September 29, 2011, at the age of 75, due to congestive heart failure. Her death marked the end of a life that spanned the entire modern musical history of Black America, from the doo-wop of the 50s to the billion-dollar culture of hip-hop. It is vital to remember the true, undeniable gift she bestowed upon the world. Long after the legal battle subsided and the studio ashes cooled, Sylvia Robinson's towering achievement remains. She possessed the rare vision to recognize that the raw sound in a Harlem nightclub was not just noise, but a powerful, marketable movement. She took the biggest commercial risk of her career, establishing Sugar Hill Records and launching Rapper's Delight, ensuring that hip-hop would find its way to every corner of the globe. Her status as the original black businesswoman in the executive suites paved the way for every successful female music executive who followed. In 2022, the culture offered its official gratitude. Sylvia Robinson was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, finally cementing her place as a pioneer whose flaws cannot erase her immense contribution. Perhaps the greatest closure came in July 2022, when Sugar Hill Records finally settled the decades-long litigation with its former artists, including Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and the Moments. This settlement, 40 years in the making, finally granted the artists the millions in royalties they deserved, allowing the legacy of the music itself to be heard without the heavy shadow of injustice. The spirit of Sylvia lives on through her son, Leland Robinson, who now manages the music publishing estate, ensuring the family's continued connection to the culture she helped create. He, Wonder Mike, and Master G of the original Sugar Hill Gang have even reconciled and continue to keep the legacy alive. The journey of Sylvia Robinson, the mother of hip-hop, reminds us that true revolution often comes from the hands of flawed, determined people operating in impossible circumstances. She left us with more than just a sound, she left us with a culture. We want to hear your thoughts. Do you view Sylvia Robinson primarily as a genius pioneer who gave us Rapper's Delight, or as a complicated figure who took more than she gave? Share your honest opinion and tell us the first time you ever heard Rapper's Delight down in the comments below. If her complex story of power, vision, and the steep cost of making history resonated with you, hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to make sure you never miss another story about the legends, pioneers, and complicated truths of the black businesswoman who built the culture we love.